Thank you, Mio. Thank you very much. Your data center's backbone. By the way, talking about backbones, there are still some places in the first 3 rows available. So whoever wants to get closer, this is your chance. The data center's backbone. When we want to talk about storage in the data center, we need to talk about the data center first, because the data center is changing more than it has been changing in the last 10 years or so. And what is happening? How does it affect the way how we want to use storage? We can ask all these great people like IDC. You see a load of different things happening, too many to be clear what is happening. So let's sort them. Let's have a look at the most relevant ones. And there are big things. One topic that IDC calls workload realignment basically means that we have a completely different kind, a different breed, a new breed of infrastructure in the data center that has to do with all the things you've heard in the morning in the keynote sessions, that has to do with the voyage to digitalization. We see new applications in the data center that require very different infrastructure and also very different storage. Hyperconvergence, as Mehul just mentioned, is becoming a reality. Storage now is very often software defined. So basically, you take a standard x86 server, you run a very smart software, and you get a storage functionality which is very close to things that you have had in the last 10 years in a very, very different way. How does it work for you? Interesting question. The network, the next battlefield. Also, the network will become software defined. When we talk about hyperconverged systems, everything is software defined. The whole data center becomes software defined. What happens to storage? Talking about smarter data centers, we still see a tremendous growth in data. So many of the applications that are coming into your operations will actually create more data than ever before. We heard about the Internet of Things. So how to cope with that, with the budgets we have, with the number of people you have? Well, automation is one of the keywords. So the smart data center is basically about reducing operational expenses and coping with all these challenges with the people you have and with the budgets you have. So when we come from there, how are we together going to win? I mean, we see, of course, you as our end users, as our customers, as our most important partners. So we want to win together. And actually, this new time that we are just entering, there are winners and losers. And those who just stay on the train of efficiency, who just continue to work as they've always been working in the past, will face challenges because the competition is not doing that. The competition is embracing digitalization. So to win, we have to be ready to redefine the business. And we have to be ready to embrace those capabilities, those possibilities, like the cloud, for example. So how does that journey look like? We have all been starting in using hardware in a data center. That was great. But ultimately, the best companies on the planet are in this stage 4. They are doing hybrid cloud. They are embracing all the agility of this infrastructure, all the capabilities. And there are stages in between, like virtualization. Who of you is using virtualization, like with VMware, Hyper-V, Xen? Who is at that stage? Quite a number. And that was a dramatic journey, wasn't it? When we talked about virtualization a number of years ago, it was all, can that work? Now it's everywhere. So we are all going through this journey, and the question is, how fast can we get to the most productive, to the most effective part over there? And not all applications are moving at the same time. Not all businesses are moving at the same time. And we are here to take that voyage together with you to help you to get these kind of efficiencies and effectiveness in your data center. And that has to do a lot with storage. The thing is, with all these changes, the requirements for storage are becoming really interesting. It's about scalability, about the cost per terabyte, it's about speed, and most of all, it's about how can we manage storage in the most efficient way. And the answer is not just one architecture like in the past. The answer is now multifold. We have a whole zoo of possibilities how to get this done. All flash, software-defined, hyperconverged, all the ones we talked about. So let's have a look at them one by one and see what we as Fujitsu do to lead the change, to lead the disruption, to help you to make your business more successful. And flash is certainly the one core technology that has really taken the storage market upside down. Nothing is now as it used to be before flash was there. It all started in very specific applications. We'd have here a customer called GKL. They are in market research. So their core business is analyzing data and taking conclusions. They introduced me Eternus DX600, our standard great storage system, and equipped it all with SSDs, with solid-state drives. They're using a feature we call extreme cache, super fast cache, and all of a sudden they've been able to turn a business where they had to wait for results into a real-time business. That is a competitive advantage, a very strong one for a market research company, and they did that with Eternus. So that was generation one all-flash, when it was all about performance, and that has changed. So when you think about storage, and you think about all the hard disk drives we are using today, then you also think about the little disadvantages. So if you have a data center with thousands and thousands of disk drives, like in the petabyte range, then you are very familiar with the phenomena that disk drives do fail. Actually, with that number of drives, and we have many customers in that size, they fail every day. You have a pile of spare part disk drives that you have to exchange, and every time they fail, you have to rebuild the failed drive, and that can take time. If the drive is big, if we talk about nearline SAS or SATA drives, 8 terabyte, now you get even higher capacities, it takes a long time to rebuild them, and if you still want to run your applications and you cannot afford to interrupt, this can take weeks. So actually, that is a fire. So using disk drives is something that many people are completely tired of. And the beauty of flash is now not just speed anymore. That has changed. So from the past, where it was only about performance at any cost, to today, where we already start to replace disk by flash, we are coming to a situation where data centers will be all silicon, where we will only use one tier of storage, and that is flash for everything, maybe except for archiving. Come to that. So the mainstream adoption of flash is reality, and the reason is it's not just fast, it's not just very reliable. Actually, flash is today more reliable than hard disk drives are. It's also affordable, and it has some very nice other features like density, power consumption, cooling necessities. So it actually really changes your data center life tremendously. And how does it work from a technical perspective? You probably have heard all these LC acronyms, yeah? SLC, MLC, TLC, single level cell, multi-level cell, triple level cell. Forget it. This is not important. The important thing is DWPD. That is the one to remember, drive writes per day. Because what you want to know at the end of the day is how robust is it and what is the price? How robust is it? What is the price? And DWPD tells you the story. That is about how many times a day do we, as the supplier, as the manufacturer, do we guarantee that you can write the complete capacity? And when we did start that business in this industry, we were talking about DWPDs of 10. You don't need that. You don't write on 8 terabyte SSD 10 times 8 terabyte per day. Nobody does it. So DWPD 1 is good enough. DWPD 0.5 will be good enough. And that gives you a completely different economy, completely different prices. That's why, with latest NAND technology, this becomes mainstream. And becoming mainstream has an impact on what you would expect from a flash system. It's not about speed at all. Well, they are all fast. What it's now about is how does it fit into my data center? How does it integrate with my management software, with the other systems here? So we come to a point that For example, mirroring the system with other storage systems. For example, what happens if a system fails? Can I do a transparent failover so that my systems will still work, even if I have a box that doesn't work? The other box take over. Quality of service. This is a consolidation machine. Storage is about consolidation. You have different applications that are using it. You want to make sure that your most important application offers the best response time. Eternal systems do that automatically. Eternal's flash systems do that also automatically. All these fantastic enterprise-class storage software, that is available for our all-flash systems as well. And that helps you to automate, to make it more efficient to run storage in your data center. So let's look at that. Actually, this is a little secret, and you must promise me not to tell. On the 12th of October, we are launching a complete new family of all-flash products, the Eternus AF. So today our systems are called DX. They'll be called AF. I wasn't to talk about that, so I didn't. There is no name on the slide. But actually, this is the design. So they look a bit different. They'll be block systems. They will be based on the Eternus DX design, but they are super fast, leading in performance. They have all the enterprise features. They offer storage clusters. They offer automated quality of service, and they offer also deduplication and compression to be even more efficient, to have an even better price per capacity. So with these systems, if we compare that, and by intention I didn't name any competitors, but just by concept, if you compare such an Eternus all-flash system, and you compare that with what I call the one-trick pony systems, those dedicated startups that can do nothing but super fast all-flash systems, Eternus is even faster. With the next generation that we are launching now, we have better IOPS. We will be leading in capacity. We are anyhow much better in terms of the management integration of all the very advanced storage management software. More reliable, more versatile in terms of the use cases we are supporting. So actually, originally, Flash came from use cases like OLTP, databases, VDI, trading, and now we are opening up for mainstream. So we talk about mixed workloads. We talk about virtualization that we just talked about with VMware, with Hyper-V, with Xen. We talk about collaboration e-commerce. So basically, you can use these next generation flash systems for everything you do in your data center. And if you look at it in a very concrete way, if you really look at the dedicated numbers, this is a configuration for a medium-sized workload with 30 to 40 terabytes of capacity, 90K IOPS. Today, with disk drives, you would need this kind of system, 22 8 units in a rack, 4,000 plus watts power, 10 millisecond latency, which is good. That is today's solution. And now, if you take a flash system, a latest generation all-flash system, guess how big that is? It's as small as this one here. So we talk about a 2U system that completely replaces this big box here. And this is a state-of-the-art system. So in reality, if you look to your data center, you have systems which are 3 years old, 4 years old. So they have even worse numbers. The disk drives were smaller, energy consumption was higher. So it's even, the difference is even bigger. So if you now just compare the numbers, the flash system offers 4 times more IOPS. It's 500 times faster in terms of response time. Yeah? The response time is below 0.2 microseconds. The density is 11 times higher. The savings for power and cooling are beyond 75%. And let's not forget maintenance. Does anybody of you by accident own an EMC system? They are not very, actually nobody here, I understand that. Just in case you had one, ever heard about the maintenance costs of some of our beloved competitors? After 3 years, they jump. After 5 years, they jump even higher. So even with the normal maintenance prices, obviously a 2U box is much cheaper than a 22 stack of systems. If you compare that to an old installed base system where you pay a hell of a lot maintenance, the difference is dramatic. So if you look at, do I want to change my storage infrastructure? What do I go for? Make that comparison. Look at the complete picture. Look at the complete savings. They can be outrageous. And that is true, for example, when you look at the price or the price per IOPS. This is just a rough estimation, but for traditional storage, good price, €1.50 per IOPS, with such a flash system below 50 cents, just as a rule of thumb. Dramatic savings are possible. So the good thing is, when you change your storage in the data center towards flash, it's not just about saving money, it's not just about efficiency, it's also about how you use your existing administrators, because all of a sudden, they have to manage much less stuff, yeah? It's just less stuff. You get rid of all these disk drive fires. Yeah, the fire is extinguished because you don't have these rebuild situations. Rebuilding a failed flash drive is completely different, completely harmless, completely painless. You don't have to do all these performance optimization, all these playing around with short stroking disk and where do I put my LAN and how do I mirror that. It's fast. It's always fast enough. So you save a lot of effort for your admins. And saving effort is meaning saving significant money. Very different thing. So this is really Eternus Flash made for mainstream, available from the 12th of October. I strongly would recommend to follow the press and the news there. The second topic I would want to share with you, because it's completely new technology and it's really changing the way how to solve some of the real-life issues, that is hyperscale storage. We use the symbol of the fish because some fishes, they swim in swarms, and what that system does, it actually behaves as a swarm. You probably have heard the term swarm intelligence. This is a pretty smart, intelligent system. Why do we need that? I mean, we do have great storage systems. I just talked about the beauty of flash. Why do we need something else? The thing is, I talked also about this phase number 4, embracing the cloud, going into hybrid IT. So you have your applications, you use the S3 interface, you write certain data to Amazon Cloud Services because it's cheap, it's agile, it's nice, but you do not want to do that for everything. There is core IP. There is data which is very private that you want to keep on premise. So some should go, some should not go, and all of a sudden we have hybrid IT. How do you manage that? So you would actually want to have infrastructure that is offering an S3 interface that is giving you the agility and simplicity and the cost points of the cloud, but that is in your data center. And that is exactly the system we here talk about. It does offer an S3 interface. Use cases. We talked about Internet of Things, big data. So all of this information is coming in. When we talk about car manufacturers, they are now entering into the phase of autonomous driving. It's close. These guys tell us in 1-2 years, you will have commercially available autonomous cars driving on the streets. They are out there today. And the moment when this becomes commercially available, they are generating data like hell. Just for the start, 7 petabyte, 10 petabyte is nothing. When we talk about smart meters, yeah, in your home, when you are consuming electricity, these devices are becoming smart. They are producing information like hell. So the utility companies, they will be drowning from the wells and the amount of information that is coming in. So how do we cope with that? And that's where we are with such systems. We talked about Hadoop. Yeah, we have this fantastic approach, making Hadoop simple and economically viable. Again, it's producing data like hell. And now you would probably want to keep it. And here we talk about petabytes. So just keeping 2, 3, 4 petabytes of data, how do we do that in practice? You're running third platform infrastructure, yeah, like sync and share, like the Dropbox thing. What is the perfect storage for that? So the answer to all of these questions, that is what we call the Eternus CD10,000. The CD stands for Content Depot. That is a system that has been defined from scratch to solve these challenges of the era we are in. So it's a software-defined system, but it's a real storage system. It's object storage. We talk here about the multi-petabyte age. Let's not be mistaken. When we talk about systems that cope with 5 or 10 petabytes or 20 petabytes, the scalability of traditional storage architectures comes to an end. Many vendors will tell you interesting stories. It comes to an end. You will need a new architecture. You will need something like a CD10,000. And it does it already today. So we are scaling, as of today, beyond 50 petabyte of storage. That's what we call hyperscale. This is based on open source. Why do we build a storage system based on open source? Is that because we didn't know how to do it? Of course we did. We could have easily started an own internal, own IP project. We didn't want to do that because the open source movement is the biggest development company on the planet. There are hundreds and thousands of developers out there. The biggest storage company on the planet cannot win against that. That's why we are part of that and not outside this. We are driving that. We are part of the Ceph storage consortium. That is the core of that system. That's what we are using because that is the most modern, the most cool, the most convincing storage concept we have. And we take it and we build a full-blown storage system out of that that really leads you into the next generation of storage using the full power of open source. And as I said, it's a storage system. It's not a do-it-yourself approach. You don't go to the internet, download something, and then you play around with it. You can do that, but let's face it, it's extremely complicated. It takes a lot of time. It's very risky. It's very expensive. You don't want to do that. We have developed a storage system, enterprise-class storage, with all the services, with all the service levels we can guarantee you. If you're operating it in your data center, that's what you actually want to have. And that's the nicest thing, and that's where it differs from all of us. It's an immortal system. Why is that important? Even today, we are selling multi-petabyte systems. So we have customers for our flagships, the Eternus DX8000, who are having 2-3 petabyte of storage. For example, the ADAC, that is the biggest motor car club in Germany, they are running such a system. The migration from their old, whatever, IBM, I don't know, system to the Eternus takes them already 2 years. The life cycle of a storage system depends on the financial situation in the country is somewhere in between 3 to 5 years. So already today, about half the time they have the system, they are migrating. First 2 years data in, and then 2 years data off, just 1 year without any migration activity. When we now move into a time where we don't talk about 2 petabyte, but 5 or 10, and we are facing that, there'll be the day when you just don't have enough time to do all this migration because the life cycle of the product is not long enough. And that's why Immortal is important. So how does Immortal work like? That is a simplified approach to show how the CD10K manages data. We have 4 nodes, very typical for scale-out system, and now you write data to that, and the system is smart. It distributes the writes evenly to the nodes. So something in the past that has been done by the admin, the system does it for you. You save money again. So it distributes, it creates redundancy, either in multi-copies or in erasure code, whatever you prefer. And at one point in time, the 4 nodes are completely busy and the system is full. So you decide to extend it. And you don't do a forklift upgrade, you don't throw it out and buy the next system. You are just adding node by node. And again, the smart CD10,000 is taking the data that it already has and is redistributing them to the new nodes. So it automatically balances the system and gives you the best performance it can. And now you have seen new storage technology gives you a lot of savings. Old ones is power consuming, heavy in maintenance. So you want to get rid of the nodes. How do you do this one? And again, you just tell the system, evacuate the old node. And it does it for you. That's all. So it takes the data, redistributes it evenly on the new nodes, and then you can throw away the old node, and you have a brand new system without any migration. So that is the answer to the migration dilemma. And now the question for you is, how do I start? This is so new. I want to try it out. I want to get some experience. Does the system work with my applications? How do I administer that? And that's where we help you. So typically, scale-out systems start at 4 nodes. That is quite big and quite expensive. So what we created is something we call the Quick Start Edition. It is just 1 node, and we have a virtual CD10K running on it. So you just take this very affordable 1 node. You have your full user experience. You can try it out with your applications, and you can see how it helps you. And if you're really thinking, hey, that's what I wanted to, you can keep that node and make it the first of your 4-node base configuration for the CD10K. So very easy getting into that and then extending to productive use. That is the most easy way in the industry to start this kind of next generation storage. Big recommendation to do that. I will jump over hyperconverged because of time and because Mihul actually covered that. So we will see now a flashy thing and go right into the next animal acronym, and that is about our classical Eternus DX. And this is the point where I want to ask a colleague of mine to jump on here. He's a bit shy, but we motivate him. Maybe you help me to motivate him.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Narasimharao. I'm a solution architect for storage. I have around 20 years experience on storage. So I worked on all technologies. So I just want to, yes, Marcus, if you look at the Marcus presentation as of today, yes, flash is very important, and that's a feature. But at the same time, we should not forget the hybrid systems also, right? That's a very important thing. So before I start about the hybrid systems, so I would like to start upon some of the case studies. This is important case study. This is Madhya Pradesh Electricity Board, distribution company. Earlier, what happened is that they don't have a centralized billing system, so it is distributed across the multiple sites, and at least it will take almost 10 days, actually 10 to 20 days, to generate a bill for each and every one. So after they implement using the Eternus and Primergy solutions, so they are able to actually cut down almost 2 minutes, because they have actually centralized into 2 locations in the northern part of India. So what happened is that the very important thing is SLAs. So for almost from 10 days to in a minute, it's very important. You need to understand that what is the SLA it's actually providing by the Eternus DX system, right? The other.
Sorry, we get there.
Okay.
Better.
This is one more case study. Before that, I just want to check any of M&M colleagues are here? Mahindra and Mahindra? So, no? So I just want to highlight one more important case study. Apart from the State Bank of India, there's Mahindra and Mahindra whole distribution system, that is a dealer management system, is actually running on Eternus system. So it's actually, if you look at that, what they have is the Eternus DX200. It's very entry-level system, and it's actually giving it's touched almost 1 lakh IOPS in 2 milliseconds response time. So you need to understand that it's very important that what SLAs it's actually giving that. Everyone actually provides the storage solutions. There is no difference in that, but it is stick to the SLAs. That's important to that. So one of the other important. Okay, sorry.
No, please.
Okay. So how many of you are aware of that Fujitsu storage portfolio here? Can you raise the hands? Oh, good. not the Fujitsu colleagues. Not the Fujitsu colleagues. Okay. One important thing you need to understand here is that very important thing here is that from DX660, that is the entry-level system, we need to understand that. You can actually do a data in place upgrade from DX60 to DX600. That's a very important thing you need to understand, because the disk shelves which they use from DX60 to DX8700 also is the same. There's no difference in that, number one. Number two, you don't, once you actually install the DX60 and you're able to configure it, you can actually configure DX8700 also. There is no separate GUI for this, and there is no separate training is required for this one. That's very important thing. So you don't require a separate skill sets for each and every product. That's important thing. And other important thing you need to understand here is from DX100 to DX600. This is a unified storage. When we say unified storage, there is no controller, additional controller to this, right? So in general, if you look at that, you will have additional controllers for the NAS and additional controllers for the SAN. Even if you tie up into a single bundle, I can say that bundle into a one single system and say that it's a unified storage, but obviously it's running on the two different firmwares. That's a very important thing. So you need to manage all those things. But if you look at from DX100 to DX600, there is no separate controller. It's in a single system, which is unified, and you just, it's the same GUI. There's no difference in that one. Just added a NAS header to that one, NAS options to that GUI, nothing else into that.
Yeah, let me add one point. We have exactly the same management software in all of these systems, from the very small one to one of the biggest storage systems in the industry. So you learn it once, you can use it for all of these systems. It's really like flying an Airbus 320. You learn the Airbus 320, and you can basically fly a 380. And what you also can do, you can replicate between the different systems. With most of our competitors, if you buy the very high-end system you want to replicate, you have to buy the second high-end system. What a price thing is that? With us, you can take a DX8000 and replicate to a DX100. So you save big time if you do replication here.
Yeah,
fantastic concept.
Sorry, I just want to add one more point.
Add it.
Just can you go back?
Oh.
So, can anyone guess what is the scalability of DX18900? Just guess. How many disks actually it can accommodate? This is the largest system in the planet. It almost takes 4,600 disks within 24 controllers. 24 controllers of SAN. Just look at that one. That's important. So it's not necessary that you should buy in a 24 controllers. You can actually start with the 2 controllers. It's a scale-out model. You can actually go up to the 24 controllers. So it's like this, 4,600 into 8 terabytes.
So it depends on the disk size.
Tomorrow you'll have a 10 terabytes disk, so 4,600 into 10. So petabytes is not important because today you have 8 terabytes, tomorrow 10 terabytes, and you will get an 18 terabytes after that. So one thing you need to understand, any storage is actually designed not based on the capacity, it's based on the number of hard disk, how much it can take. It's a 4,600 disks, yes, 4,600 disks. It can be a 1.8 TB, or it can be 800 GB also, or it can be 8 terabytes also.
So if you do the math, you have 8 terabyte per disk, 4,000 disk drives, we talk about 32 petabyte. Do you want to do that? Probably not. Yeah? That's exactly the range that we talked about, where scalability becomes pretty interesting.
And one more thing, important thing here is that the GUI is 24 controllers. 24 SAN controllers. Remember that. No one has got that. The maximum is 16 controllers, right? The very important thing, the GUI is what is there in the all flash, what he is talking about, and this is same. There is no difference in that. So it's easy for you to actually configure that whatever new system coming into that.
All right, we have a little challenge.
Thank you.
We have like 2 big topics in 2 minutes, so we'll be very fast now.
He's just kidding.
I can't guarantee we make it, but we'll be very fast. But one thing that is really cool is a little secret that we call ESM, Eternus Snapshot Manager. Why is that important? Because in this time, it's still important to do backups. And if you do a backup once a day, you will actually, in case of an emergency, lose the work of 1 day, actually an average half a day. With ESM, we have the best snapshot management in the industry. You integrate seamlessly with the applications, And this example here, Stechert Stahlrohrmöbel GmbH, as we call them in Germany, they have used that. They use Eternus DX, they use Eternus CS800 and ESM, and they come down to a 30-minute backup window. So they make snapshots every 30 minutes and then create a backup from that. So their SAP system is protected in a much better way than it was before. Do it the same way. We can help you. The thing is that with ESM, you can actually do copy data management. So it's not just about backups, it's also about copying complete sets of data for development jobs, doing archiving, doing application retirement, because now with using VMware, we talked about that, applications become files, and you can retire them, and if you need them, you just take them back again. A private bank in the beautiful country of Austria, the Walser Privatbank. I'm not a customer. They start at 300K euros. I don't have that. Maybe one of you would want to have his money to the Alps. But what they do, for them, availability is key. If you're a customer of that bank, you want to be so sure that everything is available. And they are using storage cluster. I mentioned that very briefly when we talked about the all-flash system. Storage cluster is the best storage cluster in the industry because what storage cluster does, you have two storage systems. One of the systems fails, the other one takes over. Completely seamless, completely transparent, because what we do, what nobody else does, we do as if this was taking over its name. So the application calls the name of the storage system, and then just the other system says, oh, I'm still here. And that turnover, that flip, is done in a very short time. So while for other applications, for other solutions, you have to do scripting, you have to do certifications, you have to do application integration. It's not necessarily a storage cluster. That is the best failover solution in the industry. So if you have the need to run two storage systems for high availability reasons, that is your solution. And the best thing is, now we are also supporting iSCSI. So we bring down the entry cost point for that solution further. Great thing. Quality of service, mentioned that. So we can make sure that your most important applications automatically gets the best performance of the system. You tell the system, for my SAP ERP system, I need that transaction, I need that kind of response time, and the system automatically will make sure that you get it. So that takes a lot of effort away from the admin. The system makes it automatically. Very, very good. We talked many times about VMware. If you want to manage your storage like you manage everything else in VMware from the vSphere console, you can do that. VMware has invented something they call vVol, virtual volumes. And if you use virtual volumes, you don't have to touch the storage system at all. You do everything from vSphere. And Fujitsu was one of the first to support that. It's one of the best implementations of vVol. So you can run vVol with Eternus DX, and again, make your life in administration so much easier. And there is a very nice story about the UK. I don't want to tell you, but I wanted to share the photo because it's so nice. Now we have done that. We have talked about all the different animals from the zoo. We talked about all flash very fast. We talked about the beer, the strong Eternus DX. We talked about the swarm, the very smart CD. And we almost talked about hyperconverged storage. They all need protection. They all need data protection. Even in times of super storage cluster high availability, if data corruption happens, you still need a good old backup, because never a HA solution can never prevent you from solving data corruption. And we have many airlines who are customers of Fujitsu. One of them is Portugal, and they're using a CS8000. The CS8000 is the biggest target for backups on the planet, most scalable in terms of speed, in terms of backup speed, restore speed. That's what they do. They are very happy about faster backup and archiving they ever had. Tremendous level of automation. The CS8000 is basically a backup automation machine that makes backup so much more affordable. And it has built-in high availability of the backup and restore process as such. So that's why they love it. So our portfolio basically has 3 different classes of backup targets: the CS8000, the big one, CS800, deduplication appliance, CS200, integrated appliance with Commvault. That is the exclusive Commvault appliance from Fujitsu and Commvault. So if you want to have everything in one box, if you want to have a simple way in protecting, for example, a V-shape, CS200 is the perfect way to do that. Let's spend some of the minutes that we don't have anymore on the CS8000. So typical thing is, I have a backup window, big data center. During the night, I can do backups. But with the explosion of data, sometimes that is not enough. It takes me longer to do a backup. And that is one area where the CS8000 can tremendously help, because we have grid architecture, we have a scale-out system here. It can be extremely fast. Many people say, oh, it's just backup. Let's make it cheap and slow. But in a data center, this is actually one of the most resource-hungry applications you can imagine. It has to be dramatically fast. And of course, also for the restore. Everything down, you want your data back. Are you ready to wait long, long, long? You're not. You want to have it fast back. And that's what we do, fastest backup. Consolidation, data center. We talk about different systems, different backup tools. If you have it all in one machine, you save tremendously money. To do that, it has to be scalable. It has to be very, very big. CS8000 is the biggest target on the market. You are in a restore process. Do you want to get the risk that your one-node system fails during restore? You don't want to have that. So you need high availability of your infrastructure. CS8000 does that. If you compare that, for example, EMC data domain, one single point of failure. If something happens, you're out of the game. With CS8000, you're not. We talked about automation, getting costs of backup down, and 24/7 operations. If you have a standard, let's take EMC again as an example, dedupe box, you have a time for backup, you have a time for housekeeping, you have a time for application. But you can't do everything at the same time. You can't do 24/7 operations. CS8000 can do that. So we have another example, a bank from Germany this time, 600 terabyte of daily backup. And that is the average size for this kind of customer. But the thing which is more interesting is they do the 600 terabyte of daily backup with 2 half-time admins. We have a customer who used to use these single point of failure dedupe boxes. He had to buy 8 boxes because of the amount of data he wants to protect it. And he, at the end, occupied like 10 admins to keep the 8 boxes working, because everything was times 8 and super complicated. And then he switched to a CS8000, and he was able to bring that down to 1 admin, from 10 to 1. And this one person was not even full-time occupied with the job. These are the dramatic savings you get with CS8000 if you're running a very large data center. And last but not least, a nice example for the CS200 I talked about, integrated Commvault appliance, Modern Bakery in Dubai. They are running in PrimeFlex for SAP HANA. So we talked about that, great solution for analytics in SAP space. How do you do backup? CS200 is the perfect solution. In a box, very simple, perfectly integrated. And you see the beauty of an appliance, the implementation was much faster than expected, fully operational. Summary, we talked about all these different animals. And that is driven by the change that we discussed at the very beginning, the change in the data center that requires these kind of new species in your storage zoo. And moving that direction, moving together with us, will help you to make significant changes. Consider flash systems. Consider moving to flash now. It's not just performance. Look at software-defined storage. It's not fitting everywhere, but in some areas, significant savings are hyper-converged. Great stuff in specific areas. So we have answers for all of your questions, even for those that you're just starting to discover that they are happening. We come from a background of more than 40 years experience in storage, so we have the best specialists in the industry, and we are leading in all these new technologies. So we are inviting you to talk with us about your future storage zoo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.